We are joined by former acting DNI Rick Grenell. Obviously, you know him as the Senior Advisor for National Security and Foreign Policy. Rick, we'll be talking about Cuba this week quite a bit. This morning, there are reports out there that the Biden administration may sanction or is going to be sanctioning some Cuban officials. We're kind of under the conversation of, well, that's good, there's things happening, but I want to get your point of view as someone who has served in these kind of situations before. What that actually means. Is it too little, too late? Does this do anything when you're sanctioning people from Cuba, Cuban officials?
I don't know why they're so slow at the White House. I mean, let's be honest. The State Department sanctioned conservatives in Albania. They moved quickly to sanction people in the Balkans and Eastern Europe. But yet, when it comes to Cuba, which is really right on our shores, and we know the country well, and we know their habits well, and we know the communist regime that controls that country well, I don't understand why when people are in the streets and they're getting attacked, that our government doesn't act faster. We've got to be able to be timely with the sanctions. Otherwise, they just don't work.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's this coming out. We're going to keep people updated. Obviously, we're happy that there are things moving forward. It's just, again, the conversation of what it means. And we just played a clip, Rick. I think you shared it originally. One of the reasons I saw it from Pitbull, from Mr. Worldwide, the former Pitbull, making a much stronger declarative statement than you hear from the White House. In fact, we're turning to our entertainers who feel more passionate and more maybe in tune to what's going on. And that seems like a sad state of affairs.
I jokingly said that I think Pitbull should be the National Security Advisor. He's doing a better job than Jake Sullivan. Look, I think that this is wrapped in politics, let's be honest. Yeah. The Biden administration and the Democrats have been losing Florida for a very long time. But what I think they miss is that somehow Cuba, over the past years, has become more than just a South Florida issue. It's really an issue for any American who loves freedom and liberty. And they see what's happening right close to our shores. And I would put Iran in the same boat when we saw in 2009 the Green Revolution, where the Iranian people took to the streets and they were trying to petition their government and the regime there in Iran, pushed back with violence. The Obama-Biden team was very slow, and matter of fact, have been criticized for maybe missing that moment. And I think that now what we're seeing with Biden and Susan Rice, who clearly is more in charge than she pretends to be, I think they are once again missing this moment in Cuba.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. It's sad. And it's also unfortunate. We talked about this a little bit earlier, that this, like you said, it's all politics. But at what point do you not read the room and see, for the American people, this is not politics anymore? There is a clear good and bad here.
Yeah, Logan, look, I think that they should just look no further than the cities across America.
Right.
And over the last week have had demonstrations. And again, these are cities outside of Florida. This is no longer a Florida issue. I know the Democrats feel like they've lost Florida, so why take up Florida issues? But they need to recognize that this is no longer just a South Florida issue. And people in America want to see what Ronald Reagan talked about, which was that city on a hill, the beacon for human rights. And we should always, whether it's China, Iran, Saudi Arabia, wherever it is, we should stand for human rights.
Absolutely.
Rick, there's also some reports out that the Biden administration is considering maybe increasing embassy staff in Cuba. That would be under the reopened embassy under the Obama administration. And I guess my question for you is, there's good things that diplomatic relations can do, but when you, in the middle of this, signal that you may increase something like embassy staff, does that potentially give more legitimacy to a authoritarian regime?
It's a good question. I think we certainly have to look at it. I'm a big advocate for having fewer people in European capitals in our embassies and more Foreign Service officers, more individuals representing the United States in places where there are serious frontline diplomacy to do. And, Condi Rice, many years ago when she was Secretary of State, tried to push the Foreign Service to take danger posts and to go into embassies where there were serious diplomatic endeavors to undertake. And her point was, this is why you joined the Foreign Service. It's the Foreign Service, after all. And yet there was a big pushback from people saying, oh, I think it's too dangerous, or I'd rather be in a European capital. Well, of course, they'd like to be in Paris, London, or Berlin. But at the end of the day, I think that the State Department needs a transformation, and we need to be able to have a cone of people, and that's what they call their sector that they pursue. That we need to have a cone of diplomats who are willing to go immediately in situations like Cuba and try to do diplomatic things. We can't always just fall back on military presence, U.S. boots on the ground.
Wes.
Hey, Rick, I'm curious too. If you were in charge for the day, we've talked about on this show, that we need to figure out, because we have Guantanamo Bay there, trying to get the internet back on and support the Cuban people, publicly condemn the regime. But on a practical step-by-step basis, if you were in charge of responding on behalf of the administration to what's going on in Cuba, what are the specific steps you would want to consider to do things to actually make a difference?
Well, let me just talk about an issue that I have long thought would help not only the people of Cuba, but the people who are freedom-loving inside China and who are yearning to be free, and maybe include Iran and some other places, Saudi Arabia. But we have the technology in the United States to bring down all the government blockers that block access to the information that people need to understand what's going on. Perfect information is what some grad students would call it. We need to be able to provide that access to the information. And the United States should be unapologetic about using technology to bring down government blockers, to give people access to the internet. By the way, I really believe that this is a part of the America First agenda, because Americans want to help other countries, and certainly we can help by paying for this technology. But at the end of the day, the American people have been very clear. We don't want to send U.S. boots on the ground to other countries when they should be stepping up and fighting for their freedom. We send our military troops when our national security is threatened, and only when our national security is threatened, to defend America. But we also have to be that beacon on a hill that's helping other countries and people who are yearning for more freedom. We absolutely have that responsibility, but I think it's in a different way than what we traditionally have looked at.
Yes, absolutely, Rick. I think that's a good point. I mean, it's historically something we've kind of done before. We've seen before with radio waves, radio free, you hear all those different things that happened. Why not? Why not use the technology to our advantage? Thank you, Rick, for joining us.